Namaste, yogis. The light in me honors the light in you, and in the light we are one. Namaste. I hope this video finds you well. I'm so excited to be coming on here to talk about Uranus, the great sky god, entering the astrological sign of Gemini. In this video, I'm going to discuss several things. I'm going to talk about Uranus and Taurus, and I'm going to give an example of how it liberated two of my students. I'm going to talk about the outer planets a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the Uranus opposition transit for those that are between the ages of 40 and 45. I'm going to give an example of my own experience during my Uranus opposition. And then I'm going to talk about what we can expect over the next 7 years with Uranus being in the sign of the eternal youth and student, Gemini. So what is this all about? Information, attention, communication, networking, and the liberation of our minds. I can't help but think of the In Vogue song, "Free Your Mind and the Rest Will Follow." Yeah, this is not going to be dull, I can tell you that. So let's first talk about Uranus and Taurus. Uranus was in Taurus from 2018 until April 25th, when he officially moved into the archetype of Gemini. So from 2018 to April of 2026, what was your experience and how did you liberate yourself in Taurian themes? Taurus is about survival. It is the animal within us. It is the experience of the world through the five senses. And the mantra for Taurus is, I have. So what were you doing between 2018 and 2025 in regards to how you made money? Maybe how you shifted how you made money, how you may have liberated yourself in how you make your money and are building your Garden of Eden. That's kind of how I see Taurus, with the lush fruit out in the wild, rolling in the daisies in this gorgeous garden that is being built over time. Taurus is a slow moving sign, probably the slowest in the zodiac. It goes step by step by step. Right? You cannot rush a bull. And Uranus is the lightning strike of change that likes to shake things up. And Taurus isn't one that likes change per se or shakeups. So, how did you liberate yourself? I'll give you an example of two of my clients who were liberated during COVID. And weren't we all having our own experience through that time in regards to how we ate, took care of our bodies, Taurus rules body, and how we eat, clothe, and house ourselves was at the forefront. Remember, supply chains at that time, carrying food and such to the masses, were disrupted. COVID disrupted even going to the grocery store and such. How we may have done health differently and how we made our money may have shifted. So, the example I'd like to give are my two students who are elderly. Yogi Jessica and Yogi John, who've been married longer than I've been alive, have been therapists for the last 30 years, and they had an office about an hour's drive from their work here in Los Angeles. They would get up extra early to beat morning rush hour traffic and would eat in their cars on the way to their office. They would have clients all day, eat at their desks, maybe walk around the block or eat at a restaurant if they had time on their lunch break. Then they would return to their clients, and then they would drive home again in rush hour traffic that would last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And they did that Monday through Friday for 30 years. When COVID took place and everything shut down, they decided to renovate a room that had been just filled with clutter and such. They painted a wall. They learned, like everybody else, how to do Zoom and started assisting their clients via the web. Uranus I associate with the World Wide Web, as it rules Aquarius and the 11th house. So they created a channel for their Zoom. And over time, they realized they didn't need their office. Even after COVID had ended and they could return, they decided to close the office and save the money in rent and keep it for themselves. They saved money in gas going to and from the office, and they had an extra 3 hours to add clients or take time for themselves since they weren't driving to and from the office. They had more clients sign up because of their Zoom sessions, and it was easier to get to them via just a computer click versus the clients driving themselves to the office. So my 2 clients over time, because they didn't have to get early, got more sleep. Because they could eat on their patio or walk around the block and eat at home, they saved money, ate better, and their stress levels from not being in traffic went down. As their teacher, watching their bodies transform, as well as their manner, their energy changed completely with more sleep and less stress. They lost inches off their waist, which wasn't really the goal, it just happened. That was magnificent, and they didn't want to go back to the old way of doing things. That is an example of how a Uranus transit can liberate you from the way you've been living. They had done a Taurian type of lifestyle, squirreling away the nuts, going to work, same routine, same way to work, every Monday through Friday for 30 years. So this was quite different for them, and they have never been more happy. And so Uranus transits, if you allow yourself to be shocked where something leaves or something comes or something breaks down, it's to get to the truth of what you're made of. Uranus looks at what is outgrown and outdated and takes you out of that, like it or not. So, how did you change when Uranus was in Taurus? Now, let's talk about where we're headed. So, the 7-year cycle that we're heading into, Uranus and Gemini, will last until the year 2033. The themes around attention and information and connection and communication and socializing and network via the internet, AI, and such are coming to the forefront. This is very futuristic as Uranus rules the future. This transit is designed to break mental stagnation and cause a quantum leap in collective and individual consciousness. So this marks a shift where information becomes power, identity fractures, and attention becomes the new currency. Where attention goes, energy flows, and where your energy flows, the life force goes. So what you pay attention to, what you give your life force to, is something to be curious about. Gemini is quite curious. Where do you place your attention is going to be up for review. So attention becomes the new currency, creating both opportunity and an existential instability, especially with information overwhelm that we get through the screens. Now, Uranus hasn't been in Gemini in 84 years, so this isn't just a transit. This is a new era. When the planet of shock and awe, you can think of the hairdryer in the bathtub like zzz. This shifts into the sign of the eternal student. Uranus rebuilds the architecture of how we think, communicate, and understand and perceive reality itself. Uranus, the planet of liberation and awakening, disrupts whatever has gone unconscious. It breaks the patterns and that have outlived their purpose and introduces us to a future new way of living. Just like my elders who had never done much tech had to learn, and it can be frustrating and there can be ups and downs as you're learning new things. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the lower octave of Uranus. And this points to mind, language, learning. Gemini, the eternal student, points to media and the invisible nervous system that connects us all together. So this era is about the intelligence revolution. We are restructuring. rewiring our minds. This transit will shape how our species thinks, learns, communicates, and ultimately reimagines what it means to be human. Now, I know the last time Uranus was in Gemini, or well, let me say this. A lot of the astrologers are presenting some of the shadow aspects of Uranus and Gemini. We have light and dark of every sign, every house, every aspect and such. So, yes, we had the American Revolution, the US Civil War. Uranus and Gemini brought about the atomic age in World War II. And yes, we can have that discussion. Pluto and Aquarius, French Revolution, the Haitian War, and all of the wars that happened when the outer planets were in the signs that they have just ingressed into in a very short period of time. But I first would like to talk about the fact that all of those incidents brought massive change in civilization, right? Let's look at it from a positive aspect. So André Barbault, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, B-A-R-B-A-U-L-T, André Barbault, the French astrologer who predicted COVID in 2011, also wrote about 2026. He called it the most benefic configuration of the century, and he predicts a splendid relaunch of civilization. Some astrologers call the aspect that the outer planets are going to be making a cradle, which is the little, like if you're looking at a natal chart, the way the aspects create a design. It looks like a cradle, like if you've ever done the strings, I'm dating myself, but if you'd ever done the strings, the cradle and the basket, it's sort of what it looks like. Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini create flowing triangles of trines and sextiles in air and fire signs that peak this summer. I like to think of these configurations as the triangle of revolution leading to evolution. We have Pluto in Aquarius, the hive mind. The collective nervous system brings about a new architecture of how humanity reorganizes itself, transforming power structures in the collective future. So when you look at the dynamic of Pluto in Capricorn, this would be the structure where only a few at the top benefit. Pluto in Aquarius flips that, where the many all benefit. The mantra is we are all one. Neptune in Aries, the primordial I am mantra, Aries. A dream being born that has never existed before. And Saturn conjunct Neptune in the sign of Aries gives the bones to the structure of the cradle configuration in the chart. So Saturn is the bones. Saturn builds the scaffolding. And Saturn is asking us, do you know who you are and what you are made of? The question is, how will you be leading in the new era? We are building the dream that Neptune has risen within us, and through discipline and devotion, we create this dream. Uranus in Gemini, the one that electrifies everything, amplifies this cradle. So the human brain contains 100 billion neurons and over 100 trillion synaptic connections. They're all firing simultaneously right now as you're watching this. That is Gemini. That is Mercury, the ruling planet of Gemini. And it's like the original internet here. So the mental architecture of our world is rewiring itself. And yes, all of those wars happened, but also new things were created after the fact. Uranus is also entering Gemini alongside Venus, the feminine. And what that points to, the planet of value, what we consider worth, love, the feminine, it's the art of listening and can rule music and the way we see art, Venus also rules Libra, relationships. So with Uranus and Venus going hand in hand together in Gemini, that means the entire 7 years, that will be a part of the thread. Venus will have part of the thread of that aspect of Uranus and Gemini. She shines a little bit on that aspect. And so my question is, I wonder who the rebels will be that are going to come to the forefront. Uranus rules rebels, and Venus is the feminine. Who are the feminine rebels that will step forward? So like I said, Venus rules the ears and listening, and music is a form of communication, which is what Gemini is about. It's not just about words. My sister's a sign language interpreter. Gemini rules the arms and the fingers. How do we communicate through the hands, whether it's dance, miming, right? Music. Right now, we have a single technology that generates infinite voices that sound like everyone and no one at the same time. AI is here, and how we are going to work with it, especially artistically speaking, is going to be quite interesting. Uranus and Gemini is a time for the rebels. So the question is, what do you want to say? Some people that have Uranus in Gemini in their natal charts, or have a lot of Uranian energy, that were rebels in their time: Dolly Parton, Cher, Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez, Janis Joplin, Paul McCartney, Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, Neil Young, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix. Some belong to groups that rewired the cultural era through words and unconventional music. I mean, Jimi Hendrix literally revolutionized the electric, Uranus, guitar, the nature of his instrument. All of these rebels refuse to sound like anybody else, look like anybody else. Think of David Bowie, a lot of Aquarian and Uranian energy there. He created Ziggy Stardust. Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. Remember, when Uranus was in Taurus 84 years ago, it was like Leave It to Beaver and black and white television. And then you come into Uranus and Gemini, and those people, as they came into their own, they had a lot to say, and they said it their way, even if it wasn't palatable. They weren't playing it safe. They were the rebels of that era. I'm so curious to see the rebels that step to the forefront at this time and continue leading the way, especially with Pluto in the archetype of Aquarius. So I'm going to talk about my Uranus opposition experience in just a second, so I can kind of tie this in. So for anyone between the ages of 40 and 45, that is when you are having a Uranus opposition. Everybody has one. You could call it the midlife crisis. And the question is put forward to you, are you happy in your life? Basically at the root of the root. You know, it's one day where you wake up and you're like, who is this person I'm living with? And who are these kids? And what's this job I have? Is it what you wanted? Is it outdated? And are you being called towards something that would liberate you from a cage that you didn't know you were in until you know that you're in it? And you have the key. So the core astrological archetypes for Uranus when it's in the sign of Gemini, for those that are in their Uranus opposition: liberation of perception. So Uranus represents individuation. It's breaking from the consensus thinking to find one's unique truth. And in Gemini, this targets internal dialogue, mental thought patterns, and how reality is perceived. So the filter with which you look through is challenged, meaning what beliefs have been passed down to you? Are they yours, or was it something you were just asked to hold? Uranus is also going to be shattering mental dogma. So this transit forces the dismantling of rigid belief systems and untangling information that traps us intellectually or spiritually. And what's also being presented is creating the quality of a beginner's mind. Gemini, the eternal student who loves to learn and has their fingers in all kinds of books and learning and everything at the same time, right? The beginner's mind is a state of pure curiosity, Gemini, without judgment. Uranus encourages embracing that paradox of both and type of thinking, moving away from binary perspectives. So with all that in mind, liberation of perception and shattering your own mental dogma and thought patterns, and maybe cleaning the lens with which you see the world, questioning your own beliefs that have been given and passed down to you. I'll give you an example with my own Uranus opposition, which happened when I was 41. So for me, I had been an actor and was waiting tables for 20 years. And I had left acting 4 or 5 years prior. And I was in a relationship where I was assisting my partner in a restaurant. And all of my family, I grew up in the South. Again, I'm 41, and everybody's wondering when I'm going to be married. And biologically, this might be my chance to have children if I wanted them. And for me, I felt everything getting tighter and tighter and tighter because I didn't have an answer. Shouldn't I want to be married? Shouldn't I want to be a mother? Shouldn't I want these things? And why does everything in my body want to just run? I was with a good person. Why am I not happy in this time in my life when this is accessible? Hadn't I always wanted this? And when that question just kept pressing, I would be out and about and strangers would ask me, "Oh, you don't have a wedding ring. Why aren't you married? Don't you want to be married? What's wrong with you? Oh, you don't like kids?" And I'm like, "I love kids and I don't know if I want to be married." And just the pressure. What was expected of me as a woman? What does it mean to be a woman? Shouldn't I want to be a mother? Shouldn't I want to be someone's wife? And so on. And those questions got louder and louder. And one of the things that can happen during a Uranus transit, or when it hits a personal planet in your natal chart, the nervous system gets affected. So for 2 years, as I was moving through this transit, I think it's about a 3-year period, I started having massive anxiety attacks where I would break out in hives. I couldn't breathe and I would almost faint. I couldn't drive my car because I would have them in my car in LA traffic. I would have them at the restaurant I worked at. And I would wake up in the middle of the night just shaking because I just felt like I needed to run, but where am I going? And I had insomnia for 6 months and gained about 20 pounds from all the stress because I started eating different just to try to anchor the mind, sugar, alcohol, and whatever I needed at the time to just get my feet back on the ground instead of spinning away from my body. So because I didn't decide to leave the waiting tables business, the service industry, I was fired. It just happened. In fact, I had a reading with my astrologer who told me 6 months before, "You have a Uranus opposition coming up. You were supposed to leave this job long ago and do other things. If you don't leave," I think it was February of 2015, "if you don't leave by that week of 2015, something will be cut and Uranus will do it for you." I didn't believe that, but I was fired on February 3rd that year of 2015. And in a panic, I just thought, "Oh, I need to do something." So I went back to my yoga mat. I went to a yoga class. I had fallen off my mat for 3 years. I hadn't worked out in 3 years. And when I entered the building, there was a huge sign at Yoga Works for a 200-hour teacher training with 2 renowned teachers. And I looked at that and I was like, and there it is. For years, I'd studied yoga for 20 years. I started in 2003. I think at the time it had been 12 years, and everyone was pushing me to be a teacher. But my mental pattern was I cannot make money as a yoga teacher. I didn't see it any other way, as I had only been making money in my hand from waiting tables most of my life. So the dismantling of my beliefs around how to make money, I had to liberate that thought pattern. Did I want to be married? I had to liberate what was passed down to me. I had to liberate whether I wanted to be a mother. How would that look? How did my life look? And as I began to move through teaching, all the doors opened and my life began to unfold. I said goodbye to my partner at that time, amicably. I lost 20 pounds without even trying, just like my clients did in the story I told you at the beginning of this. It just fell off when the sadness and the fear fell away. I slept better, my body was great, and my students became my babies. And I was a mother just in a way that I had never been before, and I made more money teaching than I ever had in anything I had ever done. If you follow the Uranian flow, the current, it could lead you into magical moments that will blow your mind. So I hope that's helpful for anybody in their Uranus opposition, because yes, it can be intense. It is highly confronting because you're confronting something that's happening inside. So for those at this time, just know that thought pattern is absolutely going to be rewired because Uranus is in Gemini. As I spoke of during my Uranus opposition, this can really affect the nervous system. Gemini has an aspect with the nervous system, and so does Uranus. It's very electric. So this electric energy can lead to mental restlessness. It can lead to overstimulation, anxiety. We can even have sensitivity to light and sound. And it can create anxiety like I had, like insomnia, anxiety attacks, and so on. And it can also lead to burnout, as Gemini, again, like I said, likes its fingers in multiple things at the same time. There's a feeling of scattered energy. And so that we can just feel like we're always on can really affect our quality of life, how we eat, how we try to anchor ourselves in a healthy way becomes paramount as the world begins to speed up. All the outer planets have shifted from earth and water, slow yin moving energy, and we are now in fire and air for quite a long time, yang energy. So as everything starts to move at the speed of light and the information is coming nonstop, how do we stay grounded and have the capacity to hold all of this knowledge, all of these things that are coming toward us, and remain healthy? So in the era of air, Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus ruling Aquarius, and in the sign of Gemini, mutable air, this shift towards innovative education and information, like I said, and radical advancement in technology and travel is fantastic. But all of the overwhelm is where the medicine can be applied. And what is the medicine? Movement, slower movement, grounded movement, like restorative yoga or Qigong and Tai Chi or yoga, and meditation can be absolutely beneficial to our minds, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Slowing the mind down is a superpower. I will be creating content here on my channel to assist during this era of speed and rhythm and information and so on. And I'm going to make videos for pranayama breathwork. I'm going to do meditations, guided, and ones where you can just listen to elements and so on. And we will move from there. You can always put a request in the comment section, and you may see the video pop up just for you. So please make your requests. But I plan on creating content as medicine for this time, and I'm hoping that it will serve you well. You can also practice somatic work, and you can also practice being in nature, putting your feet in the grass, in the dirt, in the sand, sitting under a tree and watching the wind, being with the elements, sitting next to a body of water with no screens. Go for a walk in the sun and eye gaze with the sun. Moon bathe at night, forest bathe. There's a Japanese term for that, and I can't think of it right now. You can look it up. Go into nature where the prana is, the vital life force and the energy that can soothe your nervous system. All of these are wonderful ways to calm this nervous system as things begin to speed up. And so I think I'm going to close with this. We are entering an era of revolution. evolution and the rewiring of our minds as we liberate the way we've always done things, and we are stepping into a futuristic reality. It's an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to witness how the world will evolve from this to this. It's not going to happen quickly. It will be over time. But with all the outer planets shifting within a 6-month period, which hasn't happened in millennia, this, like I said, isn't going to be dull as we free our minds, because the rest will follow, right? May this video serve you well. I look forward to meeting you here on YouTube, and you can click the link below to sign up for my monthly newsletter, find ways to work with me, and thank you so much for all of your support as you like, share, and subscribe to Shine On. May we all get lit, because light is needed in the world at the moment. All right, yogis, thank you so, so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Om Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. May it be so. Thank you.